Okay, so I just went to the website and I found an interesting article. It is from 2020, and we're just going to read it and talk about it together. So it's called Digital Media Trends, the Future of Movies. Interesting. Movie studios and distributors have taken a direct hit from the pandemic. In response, they now have an opportunity to revamp the business models of a time honored tradition to better meet the demands of the digital world. The impact of COVID 19 on movie theaters has accelerated two pre existing trends. More people are staying home to enjoy movies and other entertainment, and more studios and media distributors are developing their own direct to consumer streaming services. This is true. Like Disney Plus, HBO Max. While theaters have suffered heavily from stay at home norms, studios have also been deeply challenged. Productions were halted, some of the most anticipated theatrical premieres postponed, and more top studios had to forgo theatrical releases altogether and go direct to consumers to generate at least some income. After the pandemic is over, it's unclear what role movie theaters will play in consumer entertainment or to what extent the existing system of releases will have been disrupted. That's interesting. Learn more. Explore the Digital Media Trends Survey 14th edition. Read the executive summary. Explore the Thinking Fast series library. Learn more about Deloitte services. Go straight to Smart and get the Deloitte Insights app. So these are all ways that if this sounds kind of interesting to you, you can get more deeply involved. Studios derive almost half of their revenues from theatrical releases, although the average number of movie tickets purchased by Americans each year has declined from 4.2 in 2009 to 3.4 in 2019. Studio revenues are driven more by box office tickets now than they were 20 years ago. If theaters have diminished if theaters have a diminished role in the windowing system, the schedule of exclusive exhibition periods across theaters, home video, cable and TV, and streaming, it could force changes in how content deals are financed, what the terms for distribution look like, and how studios make money from their productions. Although streaming may look like the obvious path forward, studios can't fully monetize all of their franchises and derivative content through streaming services, particularly if they don't control their own distribution channels. For those that do, deploying streaming services is very costly. Many have yet to show much profit despite their expanding market valuations. Early experiments with premium video on demand, where first run movies are offered directly to consumers on streaming services, have had mixed results during the pandemic. At the same time, if the pandemic were over, 68% of consumers want to watch at least some movies in theaters, figure one. Clearly, it is not as simple as just shifting to streaming. And now there's a figure. There's a role for movie theaters, but maybe not the leading role. Consumers' location preference for watching new movie releases. 20% prefer at home, 13% at a theater, 22% probably at a theater, 23% equally likely at a theater or at home, and 22% probably at home. Imagine a future where the pandemic has ended and movie theaters are all open again. A new movie you have just been looking forward to watching is being released at the same time, both in theaters and as a paid option, though a streaming service you through a streaming service you subscribe to. If the costs were the same, where would you see it? Yeah, I don't. I'd probably see it at home, honestly. Well, I think it kind of depends on if you have a date or not, and if you're willing to spend the money. Because going to a theater could be nice. Sometimes it's nice. With more people opting for home entertainment experiences and more studios developing their own distribution channels, studios have a chance to reconsider movie windowing and revenue models. Is a movie only a movie if it is first released in a theater? That's a good question. Should some movies skip the theater and go directly to consumers via streaming and PVOD? I don't know what PVOD is. Are there different forms of value that can be unlocked with direct to consumer services? These are questions studios should be asking at this unprecedented moment. The right answers could hinge on a studio's perspective about the future of content, how they reach and engage audiences, and how they shift to deliver ongoing value to consumers and subscribers. The changing landscape of movies. Studios have become more reliant on the box office. Total global revenue for studios by theatrical window. I'm not going to read these out, but it shows from 2000 to 2020 how these percentages have changed. Studios are very reliant on box office sales, which rose from 26% of global revenues in 2000 to 46% in 2019, figure 2. With almost half of their revenues from theatrical releases, studios are more understandably concerned about appending a century-old model in favor of digital distribution. Studios typically release new movies to theaters with an exclusive window. A film cannot be shown on any other channel during the theatrical release. On average, studios share 45% of box office revenue with the theater operator. Most movies make about 75% of the total US box office revenue in the first 17 days. I didn't know that, including the first 3 weekends. Yet they can stay in theaters for another 60 to 75 days to capture the remaining 25%. The longer a movie runs in theaters, the more the revenue share shifts in favor of the venues. Although they are usually the first, movie theaters are just one of the windows that studios and distributors use to release films. Traditionally, the windowing system has ensured that revenue generated by each platform is protected by rights to show movies during a particular time frame. For example, the theatrical window ensures movies are only available in cinemas over the first 90 days, followed by the home video and premium TV windows. They are not always distinct, however. Some overlap, while others, such as home video, may extend indefinitely. Okay, so now they have a little chart exploring the traditional Hollywood windowing system, the exclusive periods through which new release movies have typically been distributed, the time after movie release. Theatrical, 0 to 3 months. Home video, 3 to 9 months. Premium TV network, 9 to 27 months. Basic free TV network, 27 months. Theatrical releases not only drive box office revenues, they also typically determine how revenue from subsequent windows are negotiated. For example, the license fee for TV windows is determined by the success of the theatrical release. The higher the box office revenue, the higher the license fee paid to studios. If more movies skip theaters or shorten theatrical windows in favor of digital platforms, fewer movies would likely be able to generate required box office results or reach minimums for TV deals. Likewise, movies still account for much of the daily scheduling on premium cable networks. Changes to the theatrical window, such as releasing a movie on PVOD instead of in a theater, could create a domino effect of change across other windows and put more pressure on the success of streaming efforts to compensate. This shifting landscape puts studios in a difficult position. They may be able to reach more people through streaming services, particularly during the pandemic, but doing so could undermine theaters and the large revenues they generate. It could also affect revenue from other windows if they choose to use them. Such considerations impact upfront financing of productions, existing distribution agreements, and licensing terms. Arguably, exhibition windows have primarily been actuarial, a launch plan negotiated to anchor financing of productions and then monetize their steady release to different consumer segments. As on demand streaming services have expanded, they have put more pressure on the traditional post theater windows, such as premium and basic pay TV. In addition, consumers have come to demand instant access to services of all stripes. When convenience and immediacy are paramount, the time delays that consumers face with the windowing system may feel like unnecessary friction. Enter premium video on demand. This is like YouTube Premium, and I am a YouTube Premium subscriber because I don't like ads. I don't like commercials. The pandemic seems to be forcing the hand of major studios. They either lose money by delaying theatrical releases or launch first run films directly to consumers over streaming services. According to Deloitte's Digital Media Trends 14th edition Fall Pulse survey, only 18% of US consumers have attended a movie in a theater since the COVID-19 pandemic began. Even if they had the option, only 29% of consumers would feel comfortable going to a theater within the next month. Wow. Prolonged closures and the reluctance of moviegoers to return to theaters when they reopen have put theater chains under tremendous financial pressure. During the crisis, PVOD has emerged as a viable way for studios to reach movie fans while also posing a challenge to traditional windowing systems. PVOD movies are available on subscription streaming services where consumers can view them at a launch price for an additional price of around $20, often double the average theater ticket price, but significantly less than the US $35 a typical family might pay at the box office. That makes sense. And I think in California it's actually a little bit more expensive. I feel like I've gone to the theater as a family and we definitely spent about $60. During the early phase of COVID-19 stay-at-home orders, Deloitte found that 22% of consumers had paid to rent or watch a PVOD movie, and 90% of those said they would do so again. As the pandemic has continued, studios have released more movies via PVOD and viewership has grown. As of October 2020, 35% of consumers say they've watched a PVOD release, and this growth is promising, but convincing the majority of consumers to pay a premium to stream a movie at home may take time. Among consumers who have not paid to watch a PVOD movie, cost was the top factor. This challenge could be greater when streaming services charge for PVOD movies on top of monthly subscription fees. However, consumer interest in PVOD could wane once the COVID-19 pandemic has retreated and movie theaters are considered a viable and safe option. Perhaps the biggest question is whether studios can get the same revenue from PVOD they do from theaters. One benefit of PVOD is that studios can get a larger share of revenue. When movies are released in theaters, studios keep 55% of the box office revenue. With PVOD, that share is close to 80%. Studios could reduce the cost of theatrical distribution by shortening those windows to favor a PVOD release. A recent agreement between a major theater chain and a studio reduced the theatrical window to 17 days, after which movies would be available on PVOD. With theaters under pressure, studios could negotiate lower revenue share or lower guarantees. PVOD could help studios make their streaming services more valuable to subscribers, satisfy consumer desire for new content, and make them feel like a VIP. A direct-to-consumer release could front-load the cost of preparing a film for streaming distribution, both as a PVOD release and an ongoing part of the streaming catalog, a growing requirement for streaming video services. Studios could even consider developing windowing with their streaming services, staging releases across PVOD basic subscribers, and ad-supported streaming audiences. For studios that have their own video streaming services, offering subscribers exclusive access to PVOD when a movie is released in theaters could be the kind of perk that could prevent churn. PVOD could help studios make their streaming services more valuable to subscribers, satisfy consumer desire for new content, and make them feel like a VIP. Going direct, from revenue per window to revenue per user. The combined drivers of flattening theatrical revenues, rising in-home entertainment, and the shift to streaming distribution are putting greater pressure on the windowing system. For studios and distributors, direct-to-consumer distribution channels may require a strategic reassessment of monetization and a willingness to shift their perspective. For example, streaming revenues may never directly replace those from theatrical and linear TV, so what new kinds of value can a direct-to-consumer solution enable? How can studios and distributors move from revenue per window to revenue per user? I don't know. Just as streaming lowers the friction for audiences, it can also make it easier for studios and distributors to get more relevant content and advertising in front of the right audiences. Typically, digital services can generate much more data about engagement than theaters can provide, such as data based on content, interest, demographics, and location. Leveraging data-driven insights can potentially reduce the risks in content development and financing, while enabling more effective targeting for ad-supported services. Studios could also use data to identify valuable segments, such as super users. Deloitte has found that consumers who also watch a movie via PVOD are more likely to have subscribed to additional paid services, such as streaming video, streaming music, and gaming. This could lead to greater acquisition and retention for studios that offer broader entertainment packages. For major studios with their own streaming services, PVOD can be a lever to attract new subscribers and retain existing ones with exclusive releases. The trend to develop original content as a lure for streaming subscribers will likely only continue, but providers may need to experiment with pricing and even ad-supported options to reach more segments. They may need better insight into which content attracts subscribers and keeps them on the service and which content doesn't. Armed with this knowledge, studios can focus their dollars on content that contributes to profits. Although only the largest studios control a streaming service, they also see the need for original hit content, a need they may struggle to fill. Smaller studios may be able to negotiate better terms with streaming services if they offer PVOD exclusivity, though again, they should weigh the cost against the benefits. Ultimately, trends in media consumption in an increasingly competitive landscape underscore the need for studios of all sizes to reconsider windowing. Studios now have Sam the Shaman? Who's Sam the Shaman? Who's Sam the Shaman? Eh. Who's Sam the Shaman? Sorry about that. Let's go back. Ultimately, trends in media consumption in an increasingly competitive landscape underscore the need for studios of all sizes to reconsider windowing. Studios now have an opportunity to take a more nuanced and measured approach to how different types of content may perform on different distribution channels. A portfolio of content and distribution channels. Hold on a second. I'll edit this back.